Hello everyone, CrystalFissure here, and welcome to a brand new video. This time, I'm here for a chat. We're here to just chill, just chat, talk to one of my friends of really over a decade now, but believe it or not, this is the very first time we've actually spoken on call. It is none other than Dinosaur Bites, aka Rob, aka Dinosaur Dot Bites. There used to be a dot somewhere in your username, didn't there? Remember that, Rob? Something like that, right?
I think so. Maybe it's been a while.
Yeah, you were like Dinosaur Dot Bites or something like that. I remember somewhere on the Patreon. Your username has stayed the same, but it's none other than you, Rob. Welcome to this. It actually doesn't have a show name, but we're here to just kind of talk, kind of chill, talk about Clive N Wrench, talk about 3D platformers, and I thought you'd be the perfect guy to do this with.
I can't possibly imagine why you would think of me when you think of 3D platformers.
I have no idea. I mean, maybe it's because, when, I was just a young boy on the internet, going through videos of 3D platformers online, I came across this strange 3D platformer called Clive and the Stones of the Ancient Bunnies. And I remember being really, really impressed by it. I remember leaving comments and, voila, you got back to me. And somehow it just went from that game to a fully released, official, not a fan game, not a hack, not a mod, but an actual fully published in stores, you can go buy it in this damn country game. So, and a massive accomplishment.
Isn't that wild? And just to clarify, I was also a young boy at the time as well. There's nothing weird going.
I'm gonna be the weirdo and ask, actually, how old are you?
30 as of this year.
30 as of this year. Okay, so I'm 27. So you are my senior in this space. So when I was a young teenager, you were an old teenager. So you clearly had the internet authority over me, right? Being.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe I still do as well. To be
no, that's fair. That's fair. I should be calling you Mr. Rob. So or Rob Sensei. To time.
Yeah, there you go.
Japanese
I like that.
Knowledge. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So Rob, we wanted to talk about platformers. We were talking about it, I think, in the comment sections of Clive, of my LP part, and also that when I was talking about doing more sort of conversational videos. And I think the first question I want to ask, sort of diving right in, is as follows, and it is, what are the positives and negatives of being able to work on a 3D platformer based on the knowledge you've gained from playing video games, and particularly 3D platformers, over the last 2 decades, or even longer, really?
Away the negatives. Negatives that will probably be easier.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Player of games, you have a different idea the game is than you do once you've started trying to make one.
Yeah.
And especially when it's something as complex as 3D platformers, because the way that everything is structured feels natural as a player. It is a good game anyway.
Yeah.
A decently designed level should guide you along in such a way that you don't feel like it's telling you where to go, but you also don't get lost.
Yeah.
And I think that's something you take for granted until you try and do it yourself, and then realize, oh, these people really know what they're doing and I don't.
And was that something that when you were first developing Clive that you kind of found that you were doing, like you were accidentally either getting lost or making it too easy to know where everything was, like say in a collectathon style game?
Yeah, I definitely had instances of both. And also because if you're making it on your own, like I did for the most part, you are your own tester. Yeah. So you know where everything is and you know where you're supposed to go. So trying to put your mind in a place where, okay, I'm going to approach this level like I've never done it before, makes things difficult.
Yeah.
So my entire family and all of my friends got very bored with the amount of times that I asked them to play through the 27th iteration of the same level they've played before to see if it's any better. Yeah.
But I remember, like, when I first watched the Stones of the Ancient Bunnies clips, I remember, obviously I loved it at the time, but when you look back at some of the footage, it's definitely more linear in nature. By design, I think, because you probably don't know how to create those fully fleshed out 3D worlds at the time, at least, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like it'd be really hard. Again, you're being, so young as well. Like, you have, all this, you've got to experience playing games, but actually building out those entire worlds. As you said, like, it takes a long time, and that's why, it did take, really you started development. What would you say it would officially have started in 2011, or would you point it back later? Okay, yeah. So you would put the iteration of Clive and the Stones as part of the Clive N Wrench development cycle, really?
Yeah, I think so. Like there were 2 or 3 distinct phases, and that was like phase 1. But it's definitely, there's still some of that DNA all the way through from the beginning, for sure.
You 100%, yeah. We're reusing some of those models for like the or you're at least remaking them for some of those like enemies that run around, right? Like, the rabbits that run around. They look like proto.
Yeah. That's one of the very few models that's basically unchanged for a decade. Yeah.
Do you think to some degree as well that sometimes that, obviously with this game having like a rich background lore and development lore and basically all being developed on the internet, it makes it a little bit difficult though, if we are sort of going with the negative here first, for people like reviewers or people that aren't aware of those inside jokes, that they aren't aware of it, and they go, oh, that's like lazy design or something like that, like that's a lazy looking egg thief type thing, or thief, where instead you're trying to say, well, hey, this is a reference to like the first version of the game. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
no, I do know what you mean. I think there was a point where I kind of had to make that decision consciously of, do I keep the things in that make it a personal project to me and that reward people for like sticking with me for this whole time, or do I try and make it more accessible to somebody that's never seen it before? And I kind of figured that, well, it's so personal and there's so much of like my personality in it already that it just makes sense to keep going at it and just make the game that I want to play rather than worry about what everyone else needs,
And because that's the thing, like, at the end of the day, like you mentioned, you're basically a one, you're basically like a one-man team, for the most part. And so, if you end up, working at, say, a massive company one day or something like that, you'll have plenty of time to feel like your input means nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you'll have plenty of time.
Oh, well, that'd be fun, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You'll have plenty of time to be, a pencil pushing, guy that, is, guys, you've just made a successful skating game. Let's go ship you off to Diablo, or Call of Duty or something like that. So don't worry, you've got plenty of time to be a soulless, corporate zombie. So I'm obviously looking forward to that, right? That's going to be very fun.
Yeah, me too. I cannot wait to have no creative control whatsoever.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So I completely agree with your stance, for the record. I think that like putting in those little things like that, and even if it's going to get even if it's going to be the ire of certain critics and stuff like that, is perfectly fine, because I think that, one, the real ones know, and 2, the LPers will point it out. It's, even if it's even if it's smaller than even if it's not like some Jacksepticeye tier channel, kind of promoting it. But yeah, look, I mean, my impressions of playing the game, after all this time and stuff like that, playing through the demos and stuff like that, is that I really like how it controls. I know that other people consider elements of it to be floaty. I guess that's what the sort of some of the criticisms have been. But to me, that actually adds to it, because it feels like you can really get yourself out of a jam if you mess up the platforming a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think it's always going to be subjective, that sort of thing, isn't it? Because it's dependent upon whoever's playing it. But I don't know. I always felt like I was designing levels around the moveset, so it worked in context. But
yeah, that's the thing. I agree. No, I mean, I really enjoyed the fact that the going from the run, or the kind of the sort of the fast run, to the jump, to the crouch, and sometimes messing up those button triggers. Like, you'll see me do it a couple times where I like accidentally press the wrong one or whatever, but it doesn't mess it up to the point that I'm gonna die because of it. Like, I've still sort of got that safety net of either extra health and stuff like that. It's not like Crash Bandicoot where Crash Bandicoot where you fall into the water, you're done. I like the fact that I've got those extra chances if I do mess up a jump or a platforming segment. You know, I think, you know, for example, like when I was going through, you know, I was going through Cajun Mob Bog. You know, yeah, there was a couple of times I messed up, but like at the end of the day, like even the bit going back from the Easter egg, right? I was able to go from the Easter egg. It's like you could probably just suicide there and just skip back to the, you know, the end, but like being able to kind of climb up the tree, you know what I mean, from like the bottom and then get back up like that. Yeah. It almost felt like a glitch, but it wasn't. You know what I mean?
No. Yeah, I think it's just because it's so like free and physics based that you can get those moments where you kind of scramble up the side of something and it feels like it shouldn't have worked, but it did. I always felt like that feels better than if you just fallen off.
100%. But I think that kind of stringent gameplay is, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in the future platforming sort of, well, I want to talk about that, but I think that kind of gameplay is good. There are some games where it's the absolute strictness of platforming is good. I think it's definitely not, it's not a one-size-fits-all situation, but in the sake of Clive, if there was no, you know, hanging from a wall, if there was no kind of, I guess, forgiveness with some of the platforming like that, I think it would have been a way worse and harsher game to play.
Cool. Okay. Well, yeah. Then I'm glad that you felt that as well. Yeah.
And even the first thing in noticing with Flit, I noticed there was a couple of mechanics that looked really good. That I'm like, okay, this is good. This is good. The way you kind of platforming around, like it's you know, it's got that what I like to see basically. You know, but we'll talk about that a little bit after. But yeah, and
sure.
I guess positives now of being able to work on a platformer. You know.
Oh yeah. So I think like, because I'm in a position where I don't think you could name a 3D platformer that I haven't played.
Yeah.
Means that there's like no moment where I wasn't sure how to solve a problem because I'd seen somebody else do it before.
Yeah.
And I've seen some people go, oh, this feels like that, and then they'll get to another area and go, oh, this feels like that. And to some people that's a negative, but to me it never was, because it's,
not at all.
If from moment to moment you're reminded of other things that you enjoyed, then that must mean it's also enjoyable, right? Yeah. So then I'm doing my job.
Yeah. Yeah, who does a Jak and Daxter platforming section or something like that and go, that sounds like Jak and Daxter. Oh, I hate Jak and Daxter. You know, like
exactly.
Unless you actively hate that game, then it's like, well, okay, if it reminds you of a game you hate, okay, well, fair enough. But
sure.
That's a really good point. And I mean, when you say you wear your, well, you didn't say this, but I'm speaking for you here, saying you wear your references on your sleeve. Me applying that to you is more because, like, think about the first level is basically just a love letter to 3D platforming, and also Toy Story 2. So shout out Toy Story 2. And Stuart,
I can't argue with it.
And Stuart Little too. I don't know if you got a little bit of Stuart Little 2 inspiration there. But
well,
you said you've played all
Stuart
platformers.
Little 2 is made by Magenta, who made Muppet Monster Adventure, so I had to
of course
to include it.
I like Stuart Little too. First the movie was okay, but the game's actually kind of fun. Like it's not as polished.
It's a little undercooked.
Yeah, it is undercooked. It is. Was it Byteland Undercooked? No, Byteland Overworked. That's another 3D platform. Have you played that one? I think it's called Byteland.
Okay, I think you might have found the one that I've never.
There you go.
Heard of.
I got a code for it. I just was in Japan at the time. They offered me.
Is it a new thing?
Yeah, it's like just came out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't played a game made after about 2006. So
okay, there you go. Okay, so there's probably are a few platformers then that are probably it's like modern ones that are
maybe more modern ones. Yeah. Although Ratchet and Clank have played them.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost debate. Yeah, the whole platformer argument for Ratchet and Clank is almost a topic in and of itself, isn't it? It's sort of, is it a platformer nowadays?
That always makes me laugh because of the name Clive N Wrench. A lot of people see it and immediately go, "Oh, it's like Ratchet and Clank," which is always such a weird comparison to me because there's no guns for a start, so and it's not set in space. So
do you know
as far as I'm concerned, it's nothing like Ratchet and Clank.
That's a really good point. I'm gonna throw you a really random one. Would you ever do a game with weaponry, gadgetry, that kind of thing. Because I do think that there is a reason why Insomniac went from Spyro to Ratchet. I think because, you do have to expand the move set as you go. I think, in a modern, or at least in the modern gaming sphere, maybe you don't have to nowadays, but at least back then, absolutely there was pressure to add more things. Look at even Jak 1 to Jak 2. So is that anything that interests you, like the kind of the gadgetry, ability kind of progression, weapon progression kind of gameplay?
I feel like maybe if I had a really good or interesting spin on it, but I don't think it's necessary. And I'm a fan of Precursor Legacy over Jak 2 or 3 because it's simpler and it's more pure platforming, and that's what I really enjoy. So I think that's why I gravitate towards not going in that direction.
That's fair. I think, it's interesting. This is like a real obscure CrystalFissure LP topic, but I remember talking about this, and I reckon it was either Daxter LP or Jak and Daxter or something like that. But my almost dream Jak game would be a mix of 1 and 2, one that has almost the world of 1 mixed with more deeper storytelling of 2 and 3. With mission based things, but in a more open world platformery kind of thing. And Daxter almost feels like that to some extent, the way it's a bit more level based and there's missions, and I don't know, I'm when I have to think about what I prefer from Jak 1 versus 2 and 3 and that and X and stuff, I think I prefer the first one, but at the same time I think I have more actual memories with 2 and 3. If that makes sense.
I think because maybe there are more set piece memorable moments in 2 and 3 than there are in 1.
I think a perfect game in there is some kind of mix of the 2, of the 3
maybe.
Really. Because I think vehicles are cool, right? I think that the way they did the vehicles in 3 are really cool. The kind of the weaponry and all that kind of stuff. There's definitely some cool stuff in there in 3. The light Jak abilities, dark Jak. I think that Jak 1 is very basic by design, and then 2 and 3 kind of go crazy, maybe almost too crazy, and there's some kind of middle ground in there that could have been really cool, but we never got to find out because Naughty Dog just loved doing they almost, maybe they fell in love with story driven games because of Jak and Daxter, or Jak 2 and 3 and X.
Maybe.
And that's what
also the main gameplay programmer, is it Andy Gavin?
Gavin, yeah.
Left at that point?
He did. He left after, I feel like he left after Uncharted 1, wasn't it? I feel, those guys left.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think they were involved at the start with Uncharted, and then were gone, and then it became Amy something, and anyway. But Naughty Dog's a totally different company.
The industry as a whole has gone that way, hasn't it? It was for a while, platformers were the most likely popular genre to be out there, and then it shifted to what we have now, or what we've had for over a decade now, of mostly big 3D cinematic
story-driven open world kind of and then there's sort of been the revival, and I think we'll talk about that in a bit as well, but there's been this sort of semi-revival, I think, of platformers, and a kind of a reminding, maybe I think what it comes down to actually is more than a revival. It's just room for everything. I think that's the way of putting it, where it's there will always be room for platformers. At one point it felt like FPS open world kind of thing was literally holding platformers at gunpoint, going, "You're not welcome here," sort of thing. And now it kind of feels you know what? There's room for everything. At least I hope.
I think the big AAA guys have seen indie games taking a slice of the pie and then have gone, oh, hang on.
Yeah, hang on.
Money there.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it. So what about your future? So obviously Clive N Wrench came out. It came out through. So Numbskull, when I first heard of Numbskull, they were doing merchandise. And then they kind of expanded. So they expanded. What do you have any of the backstory about that? Because obviously you're now a game. You're now effectively published through them. So you want to tell us a little bit about that, maybe?
My memory's really bad, but I'm pretty sure it happened that they launched the game publishing side fairly close to the point that I contacted them.
Yeah.
One of my friends said to me, "Hey, you know Numbskull who makes Spyro merch? They're starting. They're doing a publishing. You should ask them about your game." And I was like, I was always really hesitant about getting into bed with a publisher because I didn't want to lose the control and the like artistic integrity if I'm allowed to be that self-aggrandizing. But yeah, so I just sent them an email and said, "Is this the kind of thing you'd be interested in?" And they, at that point, I don't think they'd published anything yet. They had some things on their books, but that was about it.
Yeah.
And then it just happened that they were literally a 40-minute train ride away from my house.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
So yeah, we got to chat, and then we met in person, and it kind of clicked, and we were like, okay, yeah, let's do this.
So who is that? Is it like an executive kind of thing? You have to like dress up in a suit. You have to kind of go to like a big sort of office sort of thing. Is that what it was like?
Thankfully not. It was the director that I met there, Martin. Like the first meeting, I'm pretty sure he was there. We got coffee and just chatted, and I showed off like as much stuff as I could from the game. I had to. The funny thing is, most games when you get developed would start with a game design document.
Yeah.
With me, it was just me making it. So, like, who would I make a design document for? I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Or I don't know what I'm doing, but you know what I mean.
I do know what I mean. Yeah.
And so I turned up to that meeting, and I just, like, the week beforehand, made a game design document, retroactively adding the stuff that I've already done. So that I turn up and go, okay, so here's the plan. Although by plan I mean I've already done it. Here's in case we have to show it to some other people. Here we go. Yeah. Kind of thing. Yeah. I know what you mean. You're sort of reverse engineering your your stuff. Yeah. I kind of did that. Yeah, it was very backwards.
I kind of did that with year 12. I did year 11. I did that with research project. I did an assignment where I had to make a drum and bass track, but I'd already actually finished it, and so then I kind of reverse engineered the learning, like, oh, how do I find this sample and blah blah, but I'd already done it. Anyway, if anyone
trying to remember how you did something.
I was gonna say, if anyone from the South Australian Certificate of Education actually sees it, maybe they'll take my certificate back. But we'll test my luck. But yeah, I mean, I can definitely relate. But yeah, like so working with them sounds like everything went really well then, really.
I mean, it was pretty good overall. Obviously, COVID hitting in the middle really threw everything out of the window for a bit. Yeah. But in general, it all went pretty well. I mean, the game got released on all the platforms that like we wanted it on. Yeah. And I mean, sold some copies, so you can't really complain.
Sold more than one copy, so more than just your dad and your mum and family. So that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine that.
Yeah. We bought a copy for we got a couple copies, but we bought a copy for Unlisted Leaf, who you may know, like the YouTuber, the Pokemon YouTuber, and one of my good friends. So he's got that and he's enjoyed it. And we've got a copy. Yeah, got a copy. Angus has a copy, and obviously you sent me a copy. Then I also got a copy on PS. I got another copy on PS5. So yeah, because it's just so cool seeing it in the stores. That's the thing, like actually seeing it in a physical store. Yeah, like one of my friends that works at a store, I was like, oh, do you have Clive N Wrench coming in? It's like, yeah, we've got a couple copies of it. So, and they sold. Man. They sold. So it was like
literally the other side of the world from me, and you could just walk into it.
And like proper franchises too, like as in proper stores, like not just like not crappy, but like not just like basic kind of obscure stores that like are gonna sell more niche games, quote unquote, but like actual mainstream stores, like actual mainstream popular, ads on TV kind of stuff. It wasn't like they didn't ship in like a million copies like Spider-Man or something like that, but they didn't need to, but still enough to where they would sell, make a bit of money, and you go from there.
It's still very weird for me if I ever turn up somewhere and like shelf. It's
What was that last bit there? Cut off for a second. Yes.
Oh, sorry. It's real when you can walk into a shop just randomly in the middle of a day and then a game I made sat on a shelf in the back.
How many times have you taken a photo of it or something like that, or like pointed at it or something like that, and go, "Ha, that's me, it's my game."
No, I don't want to draw attention to myself in those situations.
Well, I'm the opposite. I've pointed at it a couple of times and gone, I'm in that game. Even if it's like,
I think that's fair enough.
Even if it's just like little voice clips and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
You're a whole boss.
I'm a whole boss. I got brutally murdered. That was, that's what I'm realizing, playing through the bosses and stuff. I'm like, Jesus Christ, like these guys are dead. Like when you get them, like maybe they'll come back, but they're, at least what it looks like, they are in big trouble.
I was surprised actually that the ratings boards were like absolutely fine with that level of cartoon violence, but in the US, there's a character that has some cleavage, and they were a little bit shaky on that.
Whoa.
They were like, "Oh, you crushed a guy's head with an anvil and his teeth fell out.
Yeah.
We don't have a problem."
It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I could do a whole video about US censorship, but yeah, I'm glad that was a conversation, because I just find that very, very funny that like there actually was a conversation, and you have to go, back to the drawing board. Shit, I'm gonna have to redo it all, or not redo it all, but edit it.
I think the weirdest one was Olga has like one of those military style hats with a badge on it.
Yeah.
Stars are red, and when the localization in certain Asian territories were happening, they were like, "Oh no, we can't have red stars. You have to change the color of the star."
Oh, okay.
Didn't see that coming, and it was like, wow, that's a surprising like, obviously it changed. So if you bought, I can't remember which region or which country it was, maybe the Korean one.
Okay.
But anyway, if you buy that specific or set the game to that language, it will change the star on her hat to gold instead of red.
That's interesting. I mean, if anything, the good thing to say about that, okay, it can be maybe a little bit annoying or inconvenient, but at least it shows that they actually are paying attention to the game. It means they're not just like flicking it around. They're actually, the classification board are actually going through it. As annoying as it can be, at least they're checking it. At least okay, they've played it. They've played it because they've noticed this.
And I don't want to offend or upset anyone for such a like minor, easy to change thing, So
yeah, I was gonna say, it was really smart of you to remove the Hitler references in all the levels. Okay.
Yeah, that was a good.
Yeah, good move. No, that's not actually true, but I'm just ribbing. But yeah, no, that's great. I mean, it's just really good that yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. That whole process as well, going through all that, is probably a big annoying process for big companies and stuff like that. The fact that you probably had so few in comparison is probably a godsend anyway. That you didn't have to do.
Well,
that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, I mean, it was both, because it was like every issue was something that I would decide and then I would change myself.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a bunch of red tape or a bunch of executives to ask. It was just, okay, I'll make that change. Here's how I'll do it.
Yeah.
And of course, that is also the problem, is that every change I have to make. So it means I can't be working on anything else while I'm making those changes.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, so there's more of a time thing rather than a annoying thing. It's more just actually just time. Yeah, it's about time. A cracking time.
Especially because of COVID had already delayed the game.
That's right.
So
because it was meant to, what was the original release date? Was 2022, was it? Am I correct in that?
I can't remember. I know it was about a year. I think it was delayed in the end.
Yeah. What was the biggest cause of delay, you would say? Just polish?
So it was, I mean, there were lots of studios that, because I worked with, I'm trying to think of the timeline now. I think it was mainly distribution.
Yeah, fair enough.
With the collector's edition and stuff, because you've got, or at least at the time back then, the collector's edition was going to come with enamel pins.
Cool.
And they were in China, I think, and then the box was being made in the US, and the games were getting some of them, the Nintendo cartridges were being made in Japan.
Yeah.
So it's
cool.
Everything bouncing all over the place, which during COVID was basically impossible.
Yeah. Jeez.
I sort of was aware of it and was making those decisions, but there was so many things happening at the time that my memory of it is a bit hazy. I think it was like PTSD, and I've just blocked it out.
That's the thing, you know, you don't even think about that, especially with a physical release. You do not even think about that until you get to it and you're like, oh, wait a minute, okay, you know, the production of XYZ is, you know, tied into, you know, all these different things. Yeah, and the cards are really great anyway. They're good quality as well. So, you know, you want to make sure you're getting the right materials, the good, you know, the best quality stuff, not just cheap shit, really. So, yeah, absolutely no.
I think the collector's edition we ended up with was better than the original one offered anyway. Like, to be able to get the soundtrack and those cards and the big thick manual and all of that extra stuff felt like a better deal in the end.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, obviously, you know, Clive N Wrench came out earlier this year. Recently posted something, basically a little bit of a teaser, not a trailer, but a little bit of gameplay footage of something called Flit the Fruitbat. And
I did,
as you said to me just before we recorded, you know, got this amazing reception and stuff like that. It looked like people were absolutely loving it. Obviously, Angus and I, you know, saw the immediate, you know, homage to, you know, Muppet Monster Adventure, which is you've probably cited as like your favorite platformer, I'd say.
That didn't elude you. I'm not surprised that Angus saw that.
Yeah.
To be honest,
he knew immediately. Cool. He knew immediately. Yeah, he knew. Okay. He knew immediately. Like, I mean, you know, it's because I mean he loves that game too. So, but yeah, so let's talk about that. So obviously, yeah. So Clive N Wrench has come out. You had some plans for some other stuff to do with Nancy that may or may not see the light of day. You mentioned that on Twitter/X.
Yeah.
And but then, I know, I can't believe I'm even calling it X. What a joke. But you know, and now you've basically pivoted to Flit the Fruitbat. So what can you tell us about Flit the Fruitbat that you kind of want to tell without revealing everything, of course? Because I'm sure it'll be in due course that we'll see more.
Yeah. So the idea is that it's very deliberately made to look and feel as much like a PS1 platformer as possible. So I would hope that if somebody picked it up for the first time and they didn't know which platform they were playing it on, that it was just some PS1 game they'd never heard of, and it's built on the like engine foundations of Clive. With like obviously after releasing Clive, there's a ton of feedback, a lot of which I've been able to address in patches and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of it's kind of, or not a lot of it, because there's not a huge amount left, but some of it is very like deep down, like gameplay systems rely upon other gameplay systems, so it's like stuff you can't retain. So with Flit, I'm basically taking everything I learned on Clive, taking on all of the feedback and everything, and making those improvements and applying that to something new, with a control scheme that's a bit simpler. There's no double jump.
Yeah, notice that. Yes, and I think no double jump does actually help in a way, because it just
for sure.
It takes that leverage away of, well, like I said before, it gives you a bit less opportunity to save yourself, but it gives you a bit more of an opportunity for more tight gameplay. I think a bit more
and also
gameplay.
more deliberate level design, because when you have the double jump, everything has to, like, gaps have to be wider or ledges have to be taller. So
true.
I can design levels now as if I was designing a level for like Muppets or for Spyro, rather than having to, you know, account for the fact that you can go anywhere. Absolutely. And people have already made those Spyro comparisons as well. I've seen some Spyro comments. I've seen some Muppet Monster Adventure comments. Is that something that you think that, you know, that you think that being a different creature, kind of like, you know, like a fruit bat, which has more like gliding capabilities, do you think that will get you? Do you think that what's the word I'm looking for? Like, do you think that will make for a better, or maybe not a better game than Clive, but maybe a different game than Clive? So then people can't say it's the exact same game as Clive. Oh yeah,
sorry.
I think people will probably be less likely to compare it to Clive and more likely to compare it to something like Spyro, for sure.
And you mentioned something about the graphics as well. You said, PS1 sort of style. Do you think, and this is what I think, and this is what I saw when I saw some of the reviews of Clive N Wrench, I was like, some people saying, graphically it doesn't know, what it wants to be, or whether it's like, like modern or retro. Do you think that by making it more deliberately PS1 style, kind of almost like Cyrides and his Zera and stuff like that, and some of his other projects.
Yeah.
Do you think that doing that might mitigate some of the criticism that was given to Clive about its graphical prowess, which personally I think it was great, but I understand that some people expect something of a more AAA standard, I guess, is the way of putting it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's kind of like, when somebody makes a 2D platformer and they make it deliberately pixel art, you don't get comments of people going, well, that doesn't look very modern, it's all pixely.
I know.
I think, probably will avoid some of that.
It's hard, definitely.
It is, yeah. But also, like, and actually it's funny you brought up Cyrides, because I had a long conversation, or we had a long conversation about hand painting all of the lighting in a level, like
vertex lighting.
Working.
Yeah,
exactly. And with Clive, I always kind of struggled in that with real-time lighting, you can't take light away.
Okay, yeah.
You can add light to a scene, but you can't take it away. You could make the entire scene darker, but then you've got to account for that. So with Flit, I'm hand painting everything. So if I want to highlight an area, I just paint that area. If I want to make an area dark or blend into the skybox or wherever it is, I can just do that, and it honestly is freeing, even though it's a limitation.
I mean, look, I know I've followed followed you for years, stalked you for years, if you will. Watch out. Yeah, exactly right. We've stalked. Yeah, I always thought there was someone taking my bins out that I didn't.
I like to check through in case there's anything I can put on eBay.
Yeah, well, there's actually a fair bit. It's usually a lot of empty protein powder containers, so you can get rid of them. But you can get rid of them for me. That's good. Don't have to recycle them. But
no worries.
But we're following you. I feel like when you said that, not even joking. In my head, I'm thinking that is you. That is you. That is so you, basically. Like being able to paint everything, by being able to make it more vertex, being able to make it more Spyro / other 3D platformers that use that baked in lighting. Like, to me, that is way more towards your abilities than real time. That real time is, which we all know requires. You can have games that have 20 people on the team and it still struggle to look perfect or exactly what they look like, because lighting is an extremely complicated engine, and things, and look at everything in lighting. So much in video games all come down to modern lighting and ray tracing, and it just sounds like a nightmare that I wouldn't even want to touch, to be honest.
I think people also underestimate how important lighting is for games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you ever played a game on full brightness, full bright mode, where you turn the lighting off, just how much more difficult it is to navigate an area. But I feel like real-time lighting, a good example, if you ever play something like Uncharted or The Last of Us, in order for them to tell you where to go, you end up with ledges painted yellow for no reason.
Right, because
how else do you guide a player around? You can't put a random light there because it would look weird. But with hand painting stuff, every ledge you can land on, I just make slightly brighter than the surrounding area.
Yeah.
And it works in the art style when I don't have to paint yellow everywhere.
And that is obviously, I think that's why I think that might be one of the reasons why Flit, kind of clicked with people immediately, because it gives them this nostalgia in a different way to Clive N Wrench. It gives it this, it's not so much an uncanny valley look, but more of a, this feels authentic to it. Because, to me...
Yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah, to me, Clive N Wrench's lighting and stuff like that, I think there's actually some really nice, there's some really, so far, what I've seen and seeing the later levels stuff, there's some really good colors and lighting that you've done. But I think that what you said, I'm going to take that into account, because I think you're right, is that there's less individuality in the rooms, if you will, because you're unable to control it to the same degree as you could in Flit. So that's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
exciting. I think for me personally, that's really exciting.
Yeah, and I mean you've done your texture hacks and stuff for Spyro,
100%.
so you know what I mean when I'm talking about how like you make a subtle change to a color and the whole feeling of the level shifts.
Oh, if I could actually edit the vertex lighting properly in Spyro Edit, it'd be a game changer. Like, that's
Right.
why it's so hard to make night levels, because there are certain elements of night levels that you just cannot change the lighting. Like you can make the textures darker, you can make some of the backgrounds and fog darker, but you can't properly edit it in the same way as obviously Insomniac would have done it. So it's a huge disadvantage in comparison. Not being able to, not being able to actually edit it. So you having complete control of everything. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with Cyrides. It's the same thing with Zera. I remember always being like, oh wow, the way this is so vibrant is just perfect. It's brilliant.
Well, also big shout outs to Cyrides because they've been really helpful when it comes to like if I find something that is a challenge in this art style, I've gone to them and been like, so how would you tackle this? And then, like pages of knowledge just given to me. So that's it's nice to have somebody who gets it to talk to you like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. I mean, I know that they're very talented, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing something come out eventually when they're ready. You know what I mean? Because it's a lot of work, as you know. It takes a lot of work. You can't just go new game now. It has to. It's a lot of work. But yeah, he's working on other projects too. I've seen some of the other projects too, and they're awesome. But yeah, fantastic. I was gonna say, I was wondering about. Oh, that's right. Yes. Speaking of Muppet Monster Adventure, we talked about this really briefly, but you have obviously had a lot of experience developing games. The Muppets are a really, really popular franchise. Is there a potential chance that one day you could see, whether it's you or someone else, remaster Muppet Monster Adventure?
Okay, so it's interesting that you ask that because I was part of a pitch that happened for that.
Yes, I remember. I think you mentioned this to me on. Yeah, you mentioned this to me on Discord.
Yeah.
I reckon. Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe. So basically, another studio approached me, realizing because I'd already done some like mock-ups of
Yeah.
So yeah, they approached me and sort of said, "Listen, we're interested in pitching this to Disney as a thing. Would you be on board with that? Would you be happy to work with us?" And of course, I'm like, "Sorry, are you asking? Do I want to help make Muppet Monster Adventure remastered?" Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I would very much like to. So we put together a pitch and we went to Disney, and initially they were really positive on it. And there were lots of back and forth, and then it just all went quiet. And then about 2 months later, they announced the TV special Muppets Haunted Mansion.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh yes, I do know about that. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then Disney were like, we're going to put it on hold for now as an idea. Ask us again some other time, whatever. So it's like still in the background as a maybe thing. And it's just speculation on my part. But I feel like the reason that we didn't get to do that was because they had another Muppets Halloween like thing that they were working on, and they didn't want to have like two similar projects at the same time.
Yeah. Timing is everything, isn't it? Timing is everything.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But to some extent, that whole saga led me to starting to think about Flit as a real like possibility.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so because you were like, okay, well, I can't make Muppet Monster Adventure right now, so let's try something a little bit more derivative of it, but with its own spin and that kind of thing.
I think maybe I wouldn't use the word derivative, but certainly similar enough.
Yeah. I mean, what was the background music you used from the test level?
Oh, that was actually something that was used, something that was written for the like Nancy spin-off thingy that I was working on for Clive.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it sounded familiar to me, but like not actually familiar. Yeah, but no, you're right. Derivative is probably, you're right. Derivative is too strong of a word, but,
you're welcome. If that's your opinion, then I'm not going to argue with it. But
I think it was the bat flying that gave me that thing. Like that's what Angus was like. He's like, oh, it's like his conversion. What's it called? Like, you know, when he converts into, that's it exactly. Yeah, that's what. And I'm like, oh yeah, right. The thing is,
I mean, it's definitely inspired by that. I'm not gonna argue that.
As we know, much to your chagrin, I've never actually played the game in full to actually make the full analysis of it. You know, so
it's disgusting. Honestly,
it is pretty bad. It is pretty bad. I've been doing this since 2009, and I still haven't done it.
I've been nagging you for literally a decade, and you still haven't done it.
That is true. That is true. You know what? The funny thing is that if I did it, it'd probably still get more views than like The Legend of Zelda and Mario. So I mean, my subscribers are PlayStation gang for life. Like
rightly so, may I?
I've learned this. That they are ride or die PlayStation, and you probably are too. Even if you kind of bit down.
Yeah. I mean, it's just always been really odd to me that you, or at least like when I first met you, you were like the Spyro guy.
Yeah.
And I'd grown up playing that Muppet game, which was basically Spyro 1.5 in my head.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
You as the Spyro guy had never played it on, or at least never Let's Play it. It was crazy.
I mean,
crazy.
Have you ever seen me in the speedrun of that game? It's like one of the funniest speedruns we've ever done. It was me versus King Europe 1. And he beats me.
Years ago.
Yeah, he beats. I should link it to you. It's one of the funniest speedruns ever. I just get obliterated. It's like it was an IES race. It was like IES Championship Scramble or something like that. Angus did this concept, this tournament, and basically Al Malloy and I, were both, we're both former champions. Like we'd won tournaments. I'd won 2. And we had to go into a round 0 to get into this tournament because everyone else had signed up. Al got beat by Fraser, who would be the first one to admit sucks at speedrunning. And I got beat by Christian, who would also be the first to admit sucks at speedrunning. So the 2 former winners of a tournament didn't even enter the first round of this Muppet Monster Adventure tournament. So it was very apropos of my ability.
I don't know though. I'd never doubt King Europe. That guy's got some crazy dedication.
He does. Well, dedication to what? To Muppet Monster Adventure, or
well, just I mean, for example, he has because he showed me he has beaten Clive 100% on every platform I released it on. That's the kind of dedication he has.
What a fucking legend! He's been the one being like, keep uploading, you bloody lazy fuck. Which is true. I should be, but I'm
conversation with me as well.
He's like, I'm telling him to fucking do this. I know. Well, tell him I'm on it. That's good. I am looking forward to playing more of it. It's just this year's just been a crazy year. Like I feel like I've started a million things and then I get busy with work, and then by the time I can be bothered to record at night after I've worked and gymmed and whatever, it's just like so. But this has definitely been like this last 6 months. I've definitely really tried to like get things back, because you know what? I think it's probably the 15 millionth comment on a Spyro video saying you're still doing this LP. Oh my god, that made me realize. That made me realize I probably should get my shit together, because I was getting roasted. It's fair.
Finding time for anything as an adult is a lot more difficult than it was when we were teenagers.
I know. Anime's the big one. Like I'm watching Dr. Stone at the moment, but like me and my friend my friend Matt, I used to go to his house like every second night and just watch hours of anime and TV and like, all those kind of shows. And then, he got a girlfriend, he got really busy with his job, and I barely see him now. It's just life, like it is what it is. But there's still time to play games, still time to have fun, but yeah, not to that same degree for sure. But yeah, no, Flit seems really, really good. I'm definitely going to do a video on it soon. When you've got a bit more footage out, I think we'll cover it and stuff like that. I'm sure you're gonna go down the Patreon path of doing.
I'm not sure yet. I mean, don't get me wrong. I liked doing the Patreon stuff and the
bit of money too. It's good. Yeah.
The interaction and the feedback and all that was really good. But I also, I don't know, I always feel funny about asking people for money when I can't really give them anything in return.
Yeah.
I always, like with Clive, it was kind of a necessity in that the only real way that I could get that game done was by doing that. But like now Clive's earned me a little bit of money and I can work on Flit, not forever, but for a little while. So I kind of feel like, you know, I can't really justify asking people to help support the game when I can't give them any of it to play or any of those sort of things yet because it's just not ready.
That's true. But what you got to do, I think, you know, not to give you, you know, I mean, this is obvious sort of advice, is use the marketing that you've learned and, you know, the drip feeding of content and people like me and, you know, guys like Canadian Guy and other YouTubers to just cover your game. And that's really the that may not be worth so much money, but it is worth hype. And then that way, you know, that upon release, you know, you're going to get this, you know, people buy it because, you know, you've got people that have hyped it up over time, and you've done a great job of hyping it even with that one little clip. So, you know, it's perfect.
I was pleasantly surprised how well that went over, to be honest.
It's yeah. Like I said to you just before we recorded, I think it being not Hollywood, being Halloween, I think that helped. There's just something about Halloween, isn't there? Something about it.
I really wanted to get something out about it because of the theme. It just, like, it would be crazy for me not to post something around that time, you know?
So last question about that, and you don't have to answer it, but do you, one, want to get it published in the same way as Clive? And two, on the scale of Clive, how big do you want it to be? Smaller game, bigger game, different kind of layout?
I'm not really sure at the moment, to be honest. I think I'm too focused on making the game to worry about distribution.
Fair, yeah.
I feel like if there was a offer to do it physically and to do it on, hear it out.
Yeah. If there's like a pitch, yeah.
It's just slightly smaller.
What was that last bit? What would be smaller? You cut out for a sec. What was that last bit?
The scope of the game is a little smaller than Clive.
Yeah, fair.
I don't know, I guess if you were to take... Because Clive had 10 levels that were pretty large open worlds.
They were, yeah.
And Flit is, at least the idea is, 14 levels, but they're they're closer to a Spyro or Muppet-sized level.
Yeah, that's good.
So, like, more levels, more variety, but like a more focused idea. So it would be a smaller game and therefore would be worth less. Like with Clive came out at not like AAA prices, but
no.
it was a price high enough that I could justify getting it like put onto a disc or a cartridge.
Yeah.
Whereas with Flit, like probably end up being slightly cheaper, and therefore putting it on a disc or a cartridge would be more expensive and not worth the.
So yeah, digital only kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe with a limited physical release. You know, like exactly.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but exactly. No, I think exactly. It's not really. It's obviously not really a conversation topic that's really worth having for you right now, because, like you said, you want to work on the game first and, you know, get it going, and, you know, before you think about that. But personally, I think I'm a fan of the smaller levels, but more, because I think the best example of that is I feel like A Hero's Tale would have been a better game if they had one extra homeworld, but each level was about 20% shorter or just a bit smaller.
Sure.
You know?
And you didn't have any of the mole sections.
Yes, just get rid of that shit. Exactly. I mean, if you just get rid of that, then I would have a whole new world. Yeah, I would have whatever movie that's from. What is it? Aladdin? No. What's a whole new world? Disney movie.
Aladdin.
It is a whole new world. That's it. Yeah, good. Jasmine. Anyway, yeah. So so I would that would be what I'd do, because I feel like, you know, Hero's Tale just went that little bit too long in the tooth, some of those levels, and it just felt like it dragged. Whereas if there was like a whole other world of like some cool, you know, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the theme, but like, okay, there was like beach, there was ice, there was, you know, lava, I don't know, it's just something else, urban, city, I don't know. Yeah, it just would be fun. But yeah, no, glad to hear it. 14 sounds great, actually. That's a good little.
Yeah, I mean, I always felt like, like the pacing of Spyro 2 is perfect.
Yeah.
You have
14 tally, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
so for me to have
yeah,
but for me to have 4 homeworlds with 3 or 4 levels in each one means that I have like lots of interesting themes, and the game is based around enchanted books. So each homeworld would be inside of a genre of books, and then each level.
Yeah. I like that. That's cool.
You've got like one of the worlds is like fantasy storybooks.
Yeah.
So you end up in castles and all of that kind of stuff, and then the next one is like horror. So you have like Frankenstein's castle and that sort of thing, and then another one would be like mythology. So you'd end up with some like pseudo time travel stuff. So it just gives me a huge variety of stuff to play with.
That's very cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that kind of thing is important. You know, I think my gut feeling when I was playing through, just playing through some of the major homeworld in Clive, I noticed, I feel like you really enjoyed expanding out those homeworld parts. Like I just like watching some of your designs and how you integrated some of the levels into those homeworld sections made me think, okay, you would actually thrive doing like a more of an actual homeworld. So I like the idea that you said like having about 3 or 4 homeworlds, where you can kind of because I think that the art of a good homeworld is honestly crucial for like a cool game and a cool 3D platformer. Spyro is almost defined by its homeworlds, if you think about it, more than the individual levels.
Yeah, and it gives you if the homeworld can give you a flavor of what to expect in the main levels inside the world. I think that's a really good design.
Like Magic Crafters, introducing supercharge areas and then kind of showing it. Yeah, exactly.
Precisely.
Yeah, no, excellent. Well, I can't wait to. We'll probably have another chat about Flit. I'm sure. Before it's out. But in terms of the industry itself, we wanted to talk about this too. Where do you think platforming is going? Where do you think 3D platforming is going? You say you haven't played as many of the modern games, but what's your inkling about the industry and the success you've had? I think what can you kind of take from that?
I feel like we're in like a crossroads moment at the moment right now, because there's been like obviously success with remakes. True. And there was the success with Crash 4 in terms of AAA. So I think AAA developers understand that there's a market for it. But I think it depends on what, if they released, let's say, Spyro 4, and it came out and it wasn't very good,
oh shit,
they would chalk that up to, there's no market, rather than the game wasn't designed or whatever. And I think that might just spell the end of it for a while again. But in terms
at least for Activision / Microsoft.
Yeah. That's like, I don't trust AAA publishers to know what they're doing at all. I think anytime they have a success, it's basically an accident.
Yeah.
Most of the time, because it just feels like they just go with trends, and as soon as something becomes popular, everyone does it.
Yeah.
Like you look how many Fortnite clones are out there. Not even Fortnite. That was a clone to begin with, but you know what I mean.
Was Fortnite a clone of PUBG? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay.
At least like they saw the success and went, we can do that, but with a bigger budget.
Yeah, battle royale, as they say. Like that's
and for a little while, everything was battle royale.
Yeah, and even AEW has a battle royale in their video game, which is like a wrestling game. They have like a but at least it's actually based off of a really cool wrestling concept. But everyone's doing battle royale, and that's a good point.
But with indie stuff, it kind of feels to me like we're now at a point where, like, our generation who grew up playing 3D platformers are now game developers.
Yeah, true.
They think of, what game am I going to make? Naturally, a lot of people are going to think about the games they grew up with, which are 3D platformers. True. And I think that's why we had like a wave of indie 2D platformers, and now we've started this wave of indie 3D platformers. Just like it's a generational thing.
And that's the thing, like, I'm not massively into 2D. Like, it's definitely, I will just admit it. It's just something that, to me, like, for example, Rayman Origins and Legends, they're fun. I've done commentary with Johnny Natrium with them, and I enjoyed them. But I would do anything for a 3D outing, if you will.
I'm totally with you. Yeah, it takes a very special 2D platformer for me to care about it. You know,
I really do say, I will say, like, you know, this is not just to promote my LP, but Super Mario Wonder is fantastic. It is a fantastic game.
Right.
It is a lot of fun. It's innovating in the genre, even in 2D. It's innovating in Mario. It's doing a lot of stuff that Mario didn't normally do, while still keeping that formula. So, you know, in terms of that, you know, the industry, I mean, a good question then really is, how can platformers continue to innovate, you know, and is it okay to rely on what was successful, you know, following a simple formula, or what do you think that platforming needs to do in order to still stay, you know, so we don't have a crappy Spyro 4, basically?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like with AAA platformers, they have to innovate each time they have to, or try something new, because they get accused of treading water or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's necessary to make a good game. I think sometimes that innovation, quote unquote, can actually hurt the game overall, because like you're introducing more mechanics on top of more mechanics and taking the focus from, at least for me, the thing that I like about 3D platformers, which is the platforming. The more you add on top of it, and the more you have to justify, like Crash 3, for example, kind of has that problem of...
Oh, yeah, absolutely it did.
They introduce a bunch of vehicles and a bunch of different ways to play the game, and it drastically reduces the amount of actual, like, Crash Bandicoot levels in that Crash Bandicoot game.
It did.
So you end up with a worse product at the end of it, because, like, the actual fun bits is only half the game now.
Literally 4 levels. I always talk about this. 4 levels jet ski. 4 levels are motorbike.
Exactly my point. And the reason that they would have had to do that is because they went up, or, you know, I'm speculating, but they'd have said to their publisher, we've spent all this money to get jet ski physics right, and the publisher's gone, okay, well, you need to use it. So they then have to make more levels to justify the time and money spent making that.
Because they only had a year each time. Like, they only had a year each time.
Yeah. So I think, and it's a weird thing to say, but I think innovation is overrated.
Yeah. Especially with platformers. I think especially with platformers, believe it or not.
It's a formula that's pretty much been perfected. Like, you could, like Jak and Daxter, the first game, is pretty, like, you can play that right now and it feels good.
True.
I don't think it feels janky. It doesn't feel outdated. Like, even graphically, it's still, because it's a deliberate art style, it looks nice.
Mm-hmm. It does.
And I thought you could release that again today, and it would be, like, well received, and it would be regarded as a good game without the need to, like, innovate or change too much.
Well, I mean, there's no loading. There's no loading. Even back in 2001, that was incredible, right? You know, the fact that there was no loading screens, and, you know, now it's the same thing. Like, no loading, you know, is still considered impressive even now. So it's like, I agree.
Yeah.
Like, something like, I think basically it's like, innovation as a concept is good, and innovation and trying to do new things with 3D platforming is cool. And I think it is definitely, it's like something you should be wanting to. And if you have an idea, try it. But I think that, what you're saying is more so that the fundamentals still need to be really good, because you could have a really crappy platformer with one cool gimmick, and who cares about the gimmick, because the rest of the game's kind of mid, you know? So
like, for me, a 3D platformer is a comfort game. If I want to just relax, not think about anything, take my mind off something, I play a 3D platformer because I know what to expect, and it's comfortable and it's fun, and I don't have to worry.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like if you're feeling bad, do you go out and go to a brand new restaurant, or do you go, oh, I know what I like my mum's home cooking.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go and get food at home where it's comfortable, I know what to expect, and it makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like what 3D platformers can be, or at least what they are to me.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think that's why 2D platformers can stress me out a little bit more, because of that lack of freedom in the jumps and stuff like that. It feels like, I mean, the caverns, like something about it feels like more stressful. I think that's
sure.
You know what? It's probably psychological trauma from Donkey Kong Country, playing that at friends' houses and just dying so many times. That game is so difficult. It's fun, but it is really difficult.
Yeah.
You know, the ice levels, holy shit. But yeah, so like, I think you're right, and I think that's the thing. It's like, you know, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you can put in a new engine or something like that. You know, I think that's the way
absolutely.
I look at it.
I don't think there's anything wrong with innovation either, if the idea is good. But I think innovating for the sake of saying, or like putting some extra bullet point on the back of the box, is like detrimental to the game overall.
Yeah, and like you said, you say Crash 3, Spyro 3, same thing, the same problem.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
exactly. They had to add it. I think that was less of a company edict, more than Insomniac themselves getting bored, which we kind of know
it's not
about
always
that.
Publisher. I'm just very anti-publisher in my head.
Oh, I get
Fight
it.
the system.
Yeah, fight the system. Yeah, fight
right.
the power. That's it. Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think, yes, but Spyro 3 like definitely had that problem where it's like they want to do too much, and they don't know how to, whereas the fundamental gameplay is perfect. And then, in the years after Spyro, not knowing what they want to do, because they've kind of they've got this great engine or this great style, and everyone's like, oh, how do we just change it? And then no one cared when they changed it. Or not no one cared.
I mean, you only have to look at like how well, and my opinions on the Insane trilogy and Reignited trilogy aside, you only have to look at the idea that they remade all of those games to feel as much like the originals as possible.
Yeah.
And that is like the height of the series for for the first time in 20 years. It's like in the zeitgeist again.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of proves that the innovation isn't the important part. It's like the core gameplay being fun is the important part.
Yeah, which they both managed to capture. Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, look, I am excited about the future of platforming. I'm very much excited to what you're going to be doing, but I'm also just generally excited. I am on that hopium right now of Spyro 4.
Yeah.
I am on the hopium. I do think there is a chance that Spyro gets announced at the Game Awards, or there is definitely something cooking. Maybe it's changed dates because of the Activision acquisition by Microsoft. But I feel like there's a chance that something is happening finally.
I honestly would be surprised if they weren't doing something with the brand.
Yeah.
I know that they just put Ripto into that Crash 1 League or whatever it was.
Yeah, and they did that, and Spyro's next, allegedly. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes I don't think they would be keeping those characters in the public eye unless they had future plans for them.
Yeah.
Not that I've One Believe or have any interest in it whatsoever, but
I've only played it a few times. It's fun. I just genuinely haven't had the time.
Right.
It's not a bad game. It's just it's not enough. It's not Moorish enough for me to want to go back to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not throwing shade at it. I'm just saying it's not my cup of. I have no interest,
Yeah, you want to play a platformer. I mean, that's fair.
If I'm going to play a Crash game, I want to play a Crash game.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the with Crash 3.
Yeah,
in the first place.
That's right.
It isn't really a Crash game.
And I think the CTR is excellent as well. I mean, that's obviously not a platformer, but I love CTR. But I get what you're saying exactly. Like it comes down to that. And I mean, look, I hope though, I do hope that Wampa League is doing well, not just from a corporate overlord perspective, but more just because I hope it gives Toys for Bob the money to do more Crash. I know that like you said, like if Spyro flops, they just throw it aside. If Crash flops, probably don't throw it aside, but it's obviously not a good thing. That being said, being owned by Microsoft is, I think, a good thing because of just how they traditionally allow their developers to work on more.
Well, I hope so, because when I say that I'm not interested in the game, I do, however, have a massive amount of respect for the developers at Toys for Bob, because they clearly have a lot of passion towards what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I worry about the Microsoft thing because I lived through when they bought Rare.
Yes. I have a counter argument for that, though. I've got a counter argument for that.
Sure, but I'm just like, that's. I worry because I saw what happened there, and like they had a new physics engine that they wanted them to use, and then that informed some design decisions, and then ended up with, the most controversial Banjo game in the series.
That's true.
So,
and that is 100% all that is true, and I know about all of that. But the only counter argument I have to that is that and look, maybe someone's lying, but from what I know of what people have said, Phil Spencer has repeatedly asked Rare whether they want to do more Conker or more Banjo, and they are the ones that are coming back to them saying we're not interested. So
no, I'm sure that's true, and I know that they've had massive success on with what's that pirate game they work on?
Sea of Thieves, yeah.
Sea of Thieves, yeah, and they clearly really enjoy making it, and that, from all accounts, for the people that are into it, it's really good. So
I think what you're saying is more of a problem with when they first bought them, wasn't it? That was more the issue, right? In the 2000s, yeah. No, and you're just spot on. You are spot on. They became a completely different company.
The idea of them,
yeah,
the idea of them buying out a studio, and then that back and forth between how much decision making happens on either side, and whether that affects the morale of developers and the creative input that they get. So I don't know. I guess I'm more of a pessimist than you are.
I get it. Especially, and I think with Rare, it's definitely a nuanced argument. There's not a black and white sort of situation. I think that it's almost a bit like Naughty Dog. It's like, it'd be like saying to Naughty Dog now, "Hey, Naughty Dog, do you want to make a new game?" In many regards, like a new Crash game, I mean to say, in many regards, it's not the same team. In fact, not many regards, in pretty much all regards, it's not the same team. So if
ironically, I don't trust Naughty Dog with a new Crash game as much as I would trust Toys for Bob or somebody else, because I think the people, like you say, the people working there haven't made that kind of game before.
That's the thing. Like I almost wish in the case of Banjo and Conker that they were given to a studio that would give a shit. Maybe even Playtonic. That would be a good example.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, although I think Playtonic have their own ideas without having to be changed down by expectations. So I wouldn't want to work on it either.
So do you have any relationship with Playtonic? Because obviously there's the Trouser.
I know a few of their developers. Are pretty friendly with them all. They're all like a really decent bunch of people who are just super positive and helpful, and we're just like, hey, yeah, include a character from our game. There's a cool idea.
Yeah.
And it was the whole thing was so easy and smooth, the absolute opposite of dealing with corporations.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're a really, really good bunch of people over there.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I hope to see more from them, 3D wise. I know there was a 2D game of a ukulele game. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah.
Yeah, one of the few 2D platformers that I would definitely recommend.
It's good. Yeah, cool.
That's a really good example of a 2D platformer that's gets it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, I'm not surprised. I mean, I like ukulele from what I play. That's another one. That's a secret. That's another LP I never finished. Pretty slack.
It's not a secret you never finished.
No, it's true. It's true. And also, I also lost my save file of the SpongeBob game, so I'm probably never going to finish that either. So that's a disaster.
Shocking.
I don't know how I lost it. I don't know how I deleted it. I mean, I genuinely have no idea, but that's a story for another day.
More time for Muppets, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. More time for Muppets. My plan is, right, the full disclosure is to finish some existing LPs, maybe even Crash 3, Daxter, stuff like that. Get them done and then start some new stuff. Because I feel like if I start another thing, some of the fans that have been following old LPs are going to have a conniption. But sadly, I have lost. Another one I lost is Wallace and Gromit, Project Zoo. That's gone.
Oh.
So that's why I haven't done it for 5 years, because it's just the file's just gone. I don't know where. So
what you're saying is ask you again in 2028 if you haven't got around to the Muppets.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see. I think honestly, I'm on a bit of a streak at the moment of getting stuff out. So hopefully continue that, and then Muppets.
That's fair.
Hopefully I'll be able to cover Muppets before Flit comes out. because then I'll be able to actually make accurate assessments to whether that's a reference to this and that, and instead of just
you can then tell me how derivative it is.
Exactly. I'll be like, oh, that's derivative, and you go, well, is it really?
I think also that one of the benefits of Flit being similar enough to the Muppets is that so few people have played that game.
That's true.
So it should.
What if my LP goes viral and then I inadvertently expose you as copying it, and it's just like that's it, you're done, cancel.
I think that's a risk I'm willing to take.
Good. Okay. So basically, what you're saying is that you're saying I'll never be famous. That's fair. I understand.
No, what I'm saying is you'll never get round to it.
That's even more of an indictment. I think that's leaving it with a beautifully placed insult. It has been a pleasure. But no, I'm kidding.
That would only be right, wouldn't it?
No, exactly. That you got to put a bit of the British spin, right? Especially against the Aussies.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Cricket, soccer, football, whatever you want to call it, rugby. We actually meant to hate each other. So it's a miracle we got along.
Fairly true. You'd be very justified to hate me. Absolutely. After all, I did make a video game where someone can crush your head with an anvil.
That's true, and you made it lifelike. You wanted to remove my teeth. I always knew that was a goal. You wanted to make sure you could animate that. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Spent a lot of hours.
A lot of hours, yeah. You just had to get it right. It had to be perfect, or else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know what though? I do reckon. I mean, this is like, in terms of voice acting, I reckon it would be cool if Flit had like actual voice acting, because I reckon that you would be able to get like high quality people for like basically for free or very cheap. I reckon you would.
Well, you are in luck. That is exactly the plan.
Yeah.
Full voice act is exactly
I
like
think
Spyro style with intro cutscenes, and then every character you meet, you'll be able to talk to, and they'll have spoken dialogue.
I think that's. I mean, obviously, basically we'll wrap it up now because we've gone for like an hour and 15. But like, I think you're right in that. I think you are right in that. Like, having like a voice acting thing, like the intro outro, it adds to like the homeliness of a game. It feels more comfy, and I think that in the case of Nintendo 64, we understand why they did it, and I understand why they did it in Clive, but I reckon that it'll create a more personal experience to have those like individual voices. Plus, you've met like a million people, and all these people will want to be in the game, and it will feel like this really cool thing. I think to have voice acting.
Yeah, I think also because Flit's motivation is a lot simpler than Clive's, so it'll be a lot easier to get across.
Oh, okay, it's simpler. Okay, interesting. Yep.
Yeah, Flit has 100 baby bats, and an evil cat wants to make bat soup, but inadvertently sends them flying through a bunch of portals. So your motivation is rescue your own kids. Simple.
Yeah. And then you talk to people in like these worlds that have like their own like little thing going on, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they all have, there's little mini stories in each world, and if you help them, then they help you, all of that kind of stuff.
Like, we were going to kill this cat too. I mean, sorry, this bat too. But yeah, we'll give it back to you now. Here you go. Here's your orb. I mean, bat.
Yeah. Maybe not quite as psychotic as Hunter keeping dragon eggs hostage unless you or them or something. But
yeah.
But that sort of idea.
Yeah, cool. No, I can't wait. I can't. And of course you've got to get Johnny Natrium back. That's.
I think as much of the original voice crew as possible.
Al Malloy. Yeah. Well, myself. Wow. Okay. Well, actually, you know what? I said free, but I'm actually going to up my rate to $10,000 an hour. So, we'll
$10,000 an hour. That's all right.
It's pretty cheap. I'm going cheap for you. So we'll see if we can work it out. You can talk to my lawyers.
What if I guarantee you I won't smash your teeth in this time?
Okay, 9,000. That's my final offer.
Okay, there's room for negotiation.
That's good. Yeah, we can keep negotiating. Maybe I just said final, but no, I'll renege. But no, I can't wait for that. Can't wait to play more of Clive. Can't wait to get to the 100% secret ending, which I'm still unspoiled for, by the way. I'm still actually unspoiled.
Oh, good.
I did want to.
Yeah,
I want to see it.
You, especially of all people, I think will really appreciate
That's why I have to beat it and not like rage quit in the level if I get stuck or something. Like I've got to make sure I don't.
Yeah,
I don't quit. But yes, I definitely will get to it. But thank you so much for joining me. It's a great little conversation. I mean, little conversation. It's a massive conversation, actually. I hope that everyone shares this and watches it, because I think there's some really good insights from you as well.
I'm glad that we finally actually got to talk after being friends.
It won't be the last time, I tell you. Really, really fun to talk to you. So yeah, we'll definitely have to do it again. Whether it's on camera, or you know, on video or audio, or off.
Yeah. Who knows?
If we can both get time out of our busy schedules, you know, it's.
I'll just fly to Australia for an interview.
No, that'd be good, actually. You should come here. You should.
I actually have always wanted to visit Australia.
I know it's part of the British playbook. You know, come to Australia, come down to the beaches, nearly drown in the water. You know, come back, complain that it's hot. You know, really, really hot. Even though, you know, when it gets hot for you guys nearly die because you have no central cooling, heating in your house or whatever it is, or cooling.
That's very true.
Yeah.
I would definitely complain about that. You're right.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Well, thank you, Rob, and I will speak to you very, very soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, I hope so.
Goodbye. Thank you for watching, everyone. See you later.